And hello, water protectors, water advocates, and water activists from around the watershed, the state, the country, and around the world. And welcome to our Water Wednesday roundtable, where we take time every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific time to feature individuals and organizations that are doing amazing work specifically around water. And this is an ongoing project of the Earthstock Foundation in collaboration with Elizabeth Harold from the World Watershed Wisdom Council. And it's actually part of a whole existing water community media and membership channel called Voices of Water. And you can find out more information at voicesofwater.com. So I'm really happy and honored to be on this call today. Typically, Elizabeth and I bring in different people to interview, and sometimes she is hostessing, and sometimes I'm hosting, and sometimes we have other people who host, since it is a roundtable format and it's for discourse and building synergy and connectivity with others working with water issues around the world. So I want to just preface this discourse here. Not only an amazing person and doing a lot around water, but also a friend from Nevada County. I want to welcome this afternoon Diana Suarez from Friends of the Bear River.
Hi, thank you.
So I just want to preface the call a little bit. This is something we had put together in conjunction with what Diana would like to speak with today. That the Sacramento River watershed and drainage basin is the key to California's agricultural viability and water security. From the coastal range to the high peaks of the Sierra Mountains, the snow melt both feeds and revitalizes the delta riparian zones and fuels this breadbasket of the world as one of the largest economies in the world. Right now, it seems that there is conflicts with the commodification of water through the Chicago Exchange, which happened a year ago, where now water is not seen as life and the source of life, but now as a resource to be bought and sold and traded. So locally in Nevada County, where Diana Suarez, our keynote speaker, is today, suffers from the toxic legacy of gold mining, which is a very significant issue. And yet the Nevada County Irrigation District continues to add things like Roundup and Cutrine, a heavy metal-based algicide, into over 400 miles of irrigation ditches, which water the region's farms, supplies, and the local supplied by the local water utility. So today we're going to talk a little bit, and we're going to let Diana guide our conversation, because I know she's working on many different aspects of water around the Bear River, which is, again, one of the tributaries to the Sacramento River watershed basin, and working on a lot of really important issues. So today we're going to learn about the history and current situation regarding water rights in the California foothills. We're going to get properly informed, and I will say this is not fake news. Diana does her homework and research and is a great source of helping to educate us about the next Nevada Irrigation District plan for water, which will occur on February 8th at 4 p.m. on Zoom. And this workshop will be informational, including locations, year of seniorities, current usage, et cetera, et cetera. So enough of me, and we're really here to hear from Diana Suarez. So again, welcome to the show.
Hi, everyone. Well, we could start back in 2011 when South Sutter Water District approached NID with a coalition of Southern California water districts wanting to build a dam at Garden Bar. And NID voted 5-0 not to consider that proposal, but went on to create their own dam, first called Parker and then called Centennial. And the water rights was at the heart of the issue. I went back and researched it, and the whole idea of water rights stems from colonization and the stealing of the land and the water that happened primarily around the gold rush. 1850 was the first consideration of water rights, and they considered riparian water rights. So as the people flooded in and killed off the indigenous people, they claimed the water. And I would like to also do a land acknowledgement here right now that this is the unceded homeland of the Nisenan people who signed a treaty back in 1851, giving them a large portion of the Bear River watershed. When the treaty came to be ratified by the Senate, the California state government and all the commercial interests did not want to hand over such valuable land to the Indians. And so the Senate refused to ratify the treaty and in fact hid the treaty till 1905 when concerned people dug it up. There's, I think it's 18 unratified treaties from the California Indians that led to the homeless situation and the almost complete genocide of the indigenous population. So that's how we start with the water rights. Why did they think it was their water? We still wonder that. But it started out with riparian water rights. And then when the miners started building the ditches and carrying water far away from where it originally began, they started with appropriative water rights. Those are the water rights that Nevada Irrigation inherited from the mining. And in fact, they have one of those hydraulic mining monitors in front of their building, which to me is a symbol of where they stand on the struggles over the land and the water resources. If you want to bring it closer to the present, NID will go through all their water rights. They have over 480,000 acre feet of water rights right now. The average production of the entire NID watershed district, all the watersheds, is 350,000 acre feet. So as you can see, water rights are vastly over appropriated throughout California. And the fact that the climate has been changing, becoming, I don't know that it's become drier because there's several different studies going on with climate change. One of them is that it's warmer, but the precipitation is the same. One of NID's reasons for proposing Centennial Dam is to catch the snow melt or have an additional basin in the mid-level elevations because of the lack of snow melt and the precipitation. Through a bitter struggle from 2014, NID finally agreed to do a system level analysis called the Plan for Water. And that's where we are now. We're in the third meeting of the Plan for Water. The first one was they talked about their built infrastructure in the high country with Jackson Meadows, Bowman, all that. And the second meeting was their lower delivery systems. The third meeting is their water rights. The fourth meeting is going to be the watershed. And for that meeting, which will happen in March, it's always the second Tuesday of the month at 4:30 on Zoom. And if you want to sign up for the Plan for Water, you can go to nidwater.com, and then it'll be on their front page, Plan for Water, and you can send in your email and you will be notified about all the meetings, because it's real important for everybody, no matter where you live, to participate, because water is life and we want to keep it that way.
Absolutely. So I think what's really interesting, as we see the accelerated privatization of water, again, through the Chicago Exchange last year, and we've seen the impact of indigenous communities globally and rural communities. And as they weave a certain narrative to justify their actions, we know that there's a lot of other agendas at work behind the scenes. And a lot of it, unfortunately, really boils down to the stark reality that it's profit over people. So I know, as part of myself and Bob Saunders, who is another member of our Voices of Water kind of core team here, when we went out over the last few years, we did a series of water protector events from Mount Shasta all the way into the Sacramento River Delta. And I think one of the things that's fascinating is that during that time, we found out and maybe I just want to make sure if people aren't talking, just making sure you're muted. That during that time, we found out that not only is there water privatization, but horrific mismanagement, but also really unregulated use of environmental toxins that are actually poisoning our communities. And I know with NID specifically, and I've been at several meetings with you, and I know you're very committed. You're there all the time. We tried to raise awareness in the community about what's happening with the use of Roundup and glyphosate and other weed abatement toxic products along these irrigation canals, the use of algicides like cutrine. And could you talk a little bit about that? We'll hit some key nodes and then we'll start to kind of weave it into a bigger narrative, because like you said, this is something that people are dealing with all over the world. It's not specifically unique to Nevada County area, but it is unique in the sense of the gold mining legacy. And at the end, we'll talk a little bit about the proposed reopening of the Idaho Maryland mine, which of course will also have devastating effects. But just to rewind a little bit, if you could just talk about maybe NID and some of their practices and give people a little more insight to the world there as we move forward.
I haven't been centrally involved in NID and their pesticide use or their aquicide use within their canals. I do know they spray Roundup on the sides of the canals to discourage weed growth, and they do allow a copper aquicide drip into their canals, and the organic farmers have to turn off their water when this is going on. And there was a committee a few years ago, and they created a committee. They had secret meetings and they didn't report out, and they spent a bunch of money on it. Mike Pasner and I think it's called Clean Ditches, is all around that. Today, there was an NID meeting this morning, and they discussed a water assessment, a water availability assessment for the proposed Idaho Maryland mine. It was so controversial that they removed it from the agenda, but they did let some of the 50 people that signed on for the meeting make public comment at the very beginning of the meeting, and there was wonderful comments. And if you want to see the recording of the meeting, it's at nidwater.com.
Can you type that into the chat window? Because I know if people want to follow these links, it's very helpful for them. And I just want to elaborate a little bit as you put that link into the chat. So I do want to go back to, things like the Centennial Dam and water privatization, and the fact of why, what's motivating, besides profit over people, what's motivating some of these decisions that are happening. But I think part of it is, the fact that they're actually using these toxic algicides and herbicides on our water supply. It's just it's an old cronyistic mentality. And I did meet with Michael Passner before, who is with safeditches.com. And he also, I think they changed that recently. Michael and Yar changed that to Friends of NID. It's a little friendlier way to say, like, hey, we're here to help you and to help our community and to be a bridge between some of these horrific practices that are happening. But nonetheless, there's been a lot of, and actually in full disclosure, I've had several meetings with the board from NID proposing some really practical economical solutions. And at that time, it kind of fell a little bit on deaf ears. So at some point, I do want to go back. I knew there's, as of I think a year ago, there's new leadership. There tends to be more women on the board right now. I know they got rid of some of the old colonial-minded patriarchs who got a lot of personal satisfaction from being on the board, but we're not necessarily committed really to the health and vitality of the community. So I know that the environmental toxin piece of water protector work, and it's amazing because this year has been declared the year of the water protector, which of course came to light during Standing Rock and the Dakota Access DAPL and stuff that was happening there. But the part of the awareness is that we're all water protectors, and we all have divine birthright to access to clean water and to air and these types of things. So let's go back a little bit, and I want to welcome whoever is on their iPhone to the call, and just making sure that you're muted. We're going to have discourse and questions in a few minutes, but we are kind of fast tracking to give Diana Suarez from Friends of the Bear River an opportunity to share as our keynote speaker. But so, we're looking at climate change, whether created by people, whether it's a natural cycle. I mean, this year we had record snowfalls in the Sierras. Really, what's motivating the idea of the water privatization, the control of water, the proposed Centennial Dam? What's really behind the curtain of why they're trying to do this, and a lot of times why community outcries fall on deaf ears?
Well, one of the reasons for Centennial was the former board thought water was the new gold, and they wanted to gather up their what they call county of origin water rights, because they're the highest in the mountains, and they wanted to grab theirs first. It's that appropriative water right thing, first in line, first in time, first in line, they call it. And they wanted to sell it for a whole lot of money down south, among other ploys behind this dam, but that was definitely one of them. And people said, well, wait, the farmers here want the water to stay cheap, and we want it to be plentiful. So it actually went against the farming community. And of course, the people that get potable water wanted their water supply guaranteed. So there was a conflict there, and that's why they went back to the drawing board and are doing the plan for water. However, this morning and at the November NID board meeting in closed session, they have a real estate property negotiation to sell water south of the Delta. And they don't, if you don't read through the agenda and read down into the bottom at the last part of the agenda under closed session, it happened again today. They had closed session cited for pending litigation, and then the real property sale of water, and then more litigation. And it was brought up, well, don't you need to notice the public that you're thinking about selling water? And one of the board members, two of the board members brought that up. Can't we be more transparent? Because according to the Brown Act and some other laws that govern transparency, they're not supposed to be that secretive. And then there was an excellent comment from Kiko Mertz at Circle asking, well, why are you looking at building a dam if you have water to sell in a drought? And that was a wonderful question. And so they're kind of being put on the hot seat on their practices, and they haven't been able to explain what they're doing with the water. Another one of the board members, Rich Johansson, brought up that a neighboring water district, he's connected with a water district in Orland, and the farmers down there really want water, and that's north of the Delta. So it'll be interesting. I mean, we can't hear what goes on in closed session, but I'm sure it was a very interesting session. They don't report out very well either. They'll either say no action was taken, or the directors gave direction to the legal counsel. So they aren't very good at coming out and letting us know what's happening with water.
Are you implying that there's a lack of transparency between the board and what happens behind closed doors? In America, where it's supposed to be the government for the people, by the people, are you implying that?
They've been getting away with it for decades, but they're starting to get a lot of scrutiny, and things are changing. The more people that participate, the more scrutiny they get, the better it will be.
Well, I want to do this. I want to thank, again, Johanna for being on the call. And also, I'm not sure who's on the iPhone, but also I want to welcome Bob Saunders, who is one of the actual three principals who created this Voices of Water community membership channel. And again, you can check out that channel on voicesofwater.com. It is a membership channel where not only do we have Zoom meetings and roundtables, but we put up lots of great content. And I do want to remind people that this year, March 22nd is World Water Day, and we're going to be doing a whole all-day broadcast. I would love to have Diana come back and be part of a roundtable. But last year when we did it, we had over 50 presenters, including the indigenous Kogi from the Sierra Madre coming and talking about what's happening there with water. We had people calling from Africa where their wells are going dry and their water is being privatized. And sometimes they have to walk miles just to even have access to clean water. So as an advocate and activist, I find that, since this year has been declared the year of the water protector, and we have some more conscious indigenous leadership within the current administration. And people are waking up and getting educated, and we're calling out these puppet government people that are working on the behalf of interests of developers, again, of water privatization. We see what's happening up in Mount Shasta with Crystal Geyser, 500 million bottles a day of battling water on the traditional territories of the Winnemem Wintu and the Pit River tribes. We see what's happening in your region with the Nisinan and also with the Maidu people. And this is not a localized issue. This is a global issue. But I do want to welcome, if his camera is working, and if not, we'll get a hello. But I want to welcome to our call today someone from the Crunch Nestle Alliance, from the March Against Monsanto, who is also very instrumental in the Occupy movement. I want to welcome to our call today, Mr. Bob Saunders. So welcome.
Welcome. Let me see if my video worked. It wasn't before. There it goes. Excellent. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I also worked on stopping Crystal Geyser up in Mount Shasta. In 2015, we had an event, brought about 30, 40 people from Sacramento, and I work closely with some people up there, a friend of mine and I, and because I told them it's a lot easier to stop a plant from opening up than it is to shut one down. Even though we shut Nestle's down 4 times in Sacramento, they're still here. Crystal Geyser did not get to expand their plant in Mount Shasta. They still have one 9 miles away. And but they would have been sucking that water supply system dry. And we were also concerned about the mountain, Mount Shasta itself. I mean, could it cause an eruption? And the Winnemem Wintu were definitely worried about that. And they used to say prayers to kind of keep Mother Earth quiet and happy, and the mountain, pray to the mountain to not get angry. So what ended up happening is about 2 years ago, Crystal Geyser announced that they were abandoning the plant. They would not go ahead and expand it, and they basically gave it up. Now, I always tell people that doesn't mean that they won't sell the rights to somebody else and somebody else come in. I said, but first of all, who gave them the right to get access to that water? And I said, let's go back to the origin of it. In California, the whole state has been divided, the land, the water rights, and everything. I said, like Michael said earlier about the people, but that's a wonderful saying, for the people, by the people, just like, on the side of police cars, there's always protect and serve. I'm going, yes, the wealthy, the gated communities and stuff, So,
Yeah.
It's like people get, and I hate sloganeering. I realized I saw something on TV a couple of days ago, and I said, I realized that I've hated sloganeering for a number of years, because people believe that is the basically a law, or they believe that that's rights, or they believe, and how naive the American people are to believe any of that stuff. And the problem is also undereducation, or a lack of education. And, some of it in this country, I'll say this, because for whatever it is religion has replaced education. People think that, God will provide and everything like that. But the other part about it is, if they didn't hear the message from God, then it's not true. And human beings, if God is perfect, or the universal spirit is perfect, we're always striving to be, to model that and become that in a way. But until we ever do, which we haven't been successful yet, we have human frailty and human flaws. So
great. So we're really glad that Bob's on the call. I'm not sure who's on the iPhone. If you have video, or if you could at least type your name Oh, it's Angelique. Fantastic. Welcome, Angelique. Angelique, can you tell us, well, we're going to do this. I want to open up the round table in just another moment or two, but we want to just make sure we kind of get to the heart of the matter with Diana talking about water rights and indigenous communities, what's happening in Nevada County. And then I want to make sure we have an opportunity to find out the work that we're all doing. Angelique, who is based in Boulder, is doing amazing work with communities in Africa, indigenous communities, and also is connected to some really high level water purification, filtration systems. So again, part of these discourses are not just information for more information, but how can we build more connectivity? How can we synergize and actualize successful campaigns specifically around water, water preservation, dealing with things like mismanagement and environmental toxins. So going back with Diana for a moment, you know, we're talking again about the Centennial Dam. We're talking about a lot of these things, and we had talked about NID, which kind of controls the water utility in Nevada County, but also Placer County. And I know part of one of the things, you know, Bob and I, at the end, we want to talk a little bit about how that plays into the whole proposed Delta Tunnel. But in a couple of weeks, we're going to have Patrick Porgans on the show, and he has 40 years of forensic data about the water privatization, the tens of billions of dollars that has been spent in California for water privatization, and the false science that's being used to justify all of these infrastructural projects that are being done and really are using taxpayers' money and have no oversight and are basically giving misinformation to communities. So we're going to dig in that. But I just want to acknowledge that right now the current board of NID is the director is Ricky Heck. The president is Chris Beerwagen. Karen Hull is the vice president. And Laura Peters is also the director. And we have Richard Johansson. And what's interesting, before I pass it back to Diana, again, Bob and I have been working on some remediation ideas for the Sacramento River watershed basin. We're looking at a lot of things from biochar to mycological remediation and other things. And I had a meeting with some of the board right before the last election about, listen, the community is fed up being poisoned by Roundup and Coutrine, and we've done a lot of research. And you know what? We actually have some solutions we would like to share with you. And we actually had a meeting with Amigo Bob, who is the founder of the Big Farm Echo Conference, who passed away recently. But we provided them with some very tangible, affordable, and even more economical opportunities to remediate the irrigation ditches in the watershed, and it kind of fell on deaf ears. So at some point, we are planning on coming back like a juggernaut and kind of exposing that and giving them another opportunity to do what's right. And if it is profit over people, we understand that mentality in corporate America, but the idea is we're showing them how it's actually more profitable to use much more organic, safe, non-toxic methods of remediating in Nevada and Placer County. And eventually we want to expand that to the watershed. And we're actually working with some large engineering firms. It's not the focus of today, but I want to share that with NID as they overlord the water resource, that there's a lot of issues. So let's go back a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit, and thank you for the indigenous land acknowledgement for the Nisenan. Can you tell us a little more about you know, what really, you know, as far as the Centennial Dam project? I also know that we have the Yuba River in our community, which is one of the only undammed rivers, I believe, in the country. And just bring people a little more into your water world there, and let's get a little more into the nitty gritty of what's really happening, and what can people do? How can we inspire people to help implement a solution, Diana?
Well, I think first we need to all understand that Nevada Irrigation District is a special district sanctioned by the state of California. The water that they have rights to, they do not own. The water is in the public trust. And they were granted the rights because they guarantee that they will use it for what they call a beneficial use. That's the only reason they get the water. They are water purveyors. They move water, and the prices that people pay are for the transport of water, not for the water itself. Everyone gets confused around that, especially NID. It's not their water. But one of the things that we have talked in the plan for water is an environmental water management plan. They have an urban water management plan and a raw water management plan, and they treat the environmental water as regulatory and as a side note or an afterthought. The environmental water management plan needs to be plan number one, because water is where the source comes from. When we talk about a resource, what we are talking about is a source of life. And it is our job as humans to facilitate that resource, to continue to source the life that we need and that we take out of our river systems. So they are sanctioned by the state, and they are public servants. They really, it isn't their job to maximize profit over people. It's their job to serve the public. And I think more and more, at least the board and the general manager understand that. The staff is coming around, but slowly, because a lot of them are pretty entrenched. As far as the three-legged stool, the environmental water management plan is the key third leg to the stool, and they are starting to understand that as well. Stage 4 of the plan for water that will happen in March deals with the watershed. And I would just like to bring in some thoughts from the Nisinon in their statement. And they said that the built environment versus the natural environment. The stage 4 is going to be the natural environment, the watershed as a whole, the context from which their sources and pipes and dams and infrastructure sits in the greater watershed. And that's the point that we've striven to make as far as NID, putting things in the proper context and not seeing themselves as the center of the world. But one of the Nisinon statements, because the Lizzie Enos Nisinon Family Foundation has gotten involved now in the plan for water and put out a statement and wants to have a cultural perspective inserted into the watershed plan. They said, our greatest fear as that these and other efforts raise is they will only see the watersheds as places to take things from and sell, that the natural environment is only to service the built environment and the delivery of benefit to an exclusive end user. We need to shift their paradigm to understand that the natural environment is the environment we serve, and that the built environment is something that takes what's in abundance and excess to the natural environment. That's the point that we want them to understand. And we have lots of ideas of natural water storage in the Bear River watershed that is far more efficient, far more resilient, and far better positioned to face the challenges of climate change than another industrialized water storage facility.
Wow, you've been doing your homework, and I think what's fascinating, I know you're at the NID meetings monthly. You've been wholeheartedly committed, and not just for your own personal self-interest, but I mean what you're doing, bridging between the indigenous communities there. And I want to do a shout out to Shelley Covert and all the Nisinon people. They have some incredible films that are out, and I was just looking. I know that there's a Nevada City Film Festival. There's I Am Nisinon. There's also the film I Am Still Here. And part of what we're doing is we're going to work on getting some of these water related videos and films up on the voicesofwater.com website and channel, because it's really important. We all share a unified story through our divine birthright as human beings. But when we start to see that the same toxic colonial profit motivated templates being enacted around the world, we can join our forces both spiritually through being educated, and we can actually have victories over the old cronyistic mentality that's being run by some of these agencies. I mean, we see it all the way across the board right now. I know in Nevada County, there's also a recall of the 5 board of supervisors. One of them, Dan Whaley, which actually just recently stepped down because of backroom potential conversations with Rise Gold. So do you have any information? I know we're planning an action. I'm actually coming back from Colorado, specifically to Grass Valley, for a big action against the proposed reopening of the Idaho Mine. Do you have any more information you can share regarding the mine piece? And if not, I think what we'll do after that, we're going to open it up, because this is a roundtable and we really want to get other people's questions and input, and we'll open that up in just a minute. But again,
Yeah.
you know, a toxic legacy of gold mining, the genocide of Indigenous people, and now they want to reopen a gold mine in the heart of Grass Valley, a commercial downtown district, and begin pumping out water that has mercury and other things and putting it into the watershed. Could you comment on that about, please?
Yes, that was a big issue at the NID meeting this morning, the issue that was pulled off the table. But they had a water availability assessment, the mine was trying to say, well, we've cleared it with the local water district, we've got enough water to operate. What they based it on was 31 homes, adding 31 homes, and then they said, well, we'll pull the groundwater out of the mine, so we'll just use that as our raw water, so there's no effect. And that's the way that corporations get around the real issue. The real issues is 300 homes, not 31. That's like a problem with the draft environmental impact report, that they're underestimating the impact of the mine. And then NID loves to ignore groundwater, but groundwater is where most of our water comes from. It's the public trust, it's the people's water. Yet this mine company can take all our groundwater to the tune of a volume that would fill Scotts Flat Reservoir in 35 years and ship it down Wolf Creek with no regard for the scouring effects in the creek or the impacts on the riparian vegetation. So they're choosing to ignore major issues. The dewatering of the groundwater of Nevada County is a significant cumulative issue that will show up in many years hence to our future generations. And both NID and the county and the mine company are trying to ignore this vast devaluation of our community. Water is extremely valuable, and to not put a second thought on shipping out the huge volumes of water that they want to send out of the district and down the river without it interacting with the landscape. And recently there was the article about paleo rivers, which is uncovering deep rivers where water flows through the landscape. Speaking of the living earth, they're so clueless. And they really need to catch up with the community, who is far more educated than actually the water district or the mine proponents or the county. We have really smart people that live in our area. They need to listen to the citizens. And so these citizens are involved. There's a huge group that's involved in the mine, and they were well represented today.
Diana, and one more thing to add to what you're saying is they also need the powers that be need to also listen to the science. One of the things about the mine, I remember when I did some research and wrote, you know, from when Michael and the folks up there had a rally, I wrote a press release for that, and what I discovered in my research was the fact about that there's specialized mercury that was a result of the mining there. It's not just the regular mercury that you find as a toxin, but it's specialized mining mercury, and it's got a lifespan of forever. It's like a forever toxic, you know, chemical in that way, you know, so to speak. But the other part about it is also that and the idea of reopening something that actually was a good idea to close, but it was because of the value of the commodity of what was the ore that, the value that was taken out of the mine no longer could bring the price. That's why they closed it. They didn't close it because of contamination or anything. They could care less about it. The other thing is, I heard a report from KVMR a couple of months ago, and somebody there was mentioning, actually it was at a board meeting, and a guy raised the point about, you people don't seem to understand how water flows. You think that what happens up here, when it flows down and through groundwater, through the aquifer, through everything, every area that seeps and accepts water, and it flows down and flows into the Sacramento River Delta, it doesn't affect the Delta. They said, you think like water is like almost like a pool, and it's in the pool, and there's a way you could treat the pool like a swimming pool, and everything's okay. I didn't know whether to laugh or yell, but the guy, he got it. He clearly got it, and their responses were so dumb. I think they should have been citizen arrested on the spot for stupidity and impersonating board of supervisors. But essentially, that's what you have. They cut the backroom deals, and like what you said, it's part of the problem is that it's not. It's like the concept got grandfathered in, not the rights, and they think that they own the rights because they believe the concept and the idea and the myth that it's theirs. It's the government we need. That's why we have 12 agencies. We talked to Patrick Porgans about this, and it's absurd. I said, aren't there about 12 or 13 agencies? He said 12. I said, yeah, and every one of them is useless. And he said, yeah. And he said, do you know how much they pay for all that water that they're extracting and transporting and everything? I said, probably nothing. And he said, exactly. And he knew, and Michael figured out the same thing. And, most people think, oh, they pay X amount of dollars, that's why they charge us. Has nothing to do with any of that stuff. It's sort of like if the people only knew.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're going to open up the round table now, and I want to welcome to the call again. Angelique is back on the call. She might be having some reception issues. I know there was just a snowstorm up in Denver, and I also want to welcome the co-founder of Voices of Water channel and co-producer of World Water Day last year to the call today, Elizabeth Harold. So welcome, Elizabeth.
Hey, Elizabeth.
Be here.
Good. So it's been a very lively conversation, really getting into the heart of issues about water rights, about Indigenous access to water. We've been focused very specific in the Nevada and Placer County areas around the Bear River. We've been talking about the proposed Centennial Dam. We've been talking a lot about NID, Nevada Irrigation District, and we're looking at issues of not just privatization and commodification, but mismanagement, and also the impact of environmental toxins. And we were just talking a little bit about the proposed reopening of the Idaho mine. So at this point, I just want to make sure Diana has any last pieces of information she wants to share. And then we'll open it up and people can ask questions, and we can kind of have a little bit of discourse with the time that we have left. But again, I want to re-welcome to the show, again, Diana Suarez from Friends of the Bear River, who is an activist, advocate, and educator, and a bridge between traditional peoples of the area and doing a lot of work around water issues in the area of Nevada and Placer County. So Diana, is there anything else you'd like to share? I mean, we've covered so much ground. We've also mentioned Amigo Bob, Michael and Yara Passner with safeditches.com, who are working on the environmental toxins, Friends of NID.com, which is their organization, and Yara is studying hydrology. We know that in California, that fossil water or underground water, the aquifer is horrifically being drained and getting to very low levels because it is the breadbasket of the US and the world. We mentioned a little bit, and I know Bob and I have been working with Patrick Porgans in the Delta around the proposed Delta Tunnel project, which really goes to benefit a few very small communities of, well, corporations and companies, including Bechtel, which are the big developers in California doing a lot of the development, and they're popping up more development through Central Valley and around California in drought conditions and putting in, hundreds of thousands of housing projects, and also the Resnicks, who are appraised at over $10 billion empire that run the agrogarchy of California's almond and pistachio and pomegranate agricultural empire, and how so much of the water benefits so very few. But I want to just have you any last comments you want, and then if people want to pose some questions to Diana or talk more about what they're doing in their work. And I know Elizabeth's been doing the World Watershed Wisdom Council concept and working with Bob and I, but we want to open it up. But any last thoughts or comments or contacts that people should know about, Diana?
Yeah, if you want to protest about the Idaho Maryland mine, the website is minewatch, minewatch.org. And they're growing the community because they're going to come back on the water assessment at the next NID meeting and get NID to realize that this is not a good idea from a water perspective.
Great. And just to add to that, we're going to open it up. I was in conversations with CEA, which is the Community Environmental Advocate Group. There's also a website, Empower Nevada County, where there's information about Ben Mossman, who is trying to broker the ability to reopen the mine, to sell that to a Japanese mining company to come into the community. We're talking about the releasing of toxins in the environment, the draining of groundwater, trucks, industry, right in the heart of Grass Valley. And to me, this is one of the most important, vital, and atrocious things that are being imposed upon our community. And I do want to say, I've also been working with ITARA and some other people, ITERA, and what we're proposing on Monday, February 21st, which is President's Day, we're going to do a rally in downtown Nevada City in Grass Valley. There's a lot of tourists who come there. The whole area is fueled. The economy is fueled by tourism. And we want tourists to know that the potential of losing these Sierra foothill towns that are treasures that have been able to keep out large corporations and chain box stores out of them, and really are built in the heart of support local. We want people to know what they're proposing. So that's going to be on Monday, February 21st, between 11 and 3. And there's going to be signage and handouts in downtown Nevada City and Grass Valley. Tuesday, February 22nd at 9 a.m. is the Board of Supervisors meeting at the Rood Center. And we're looking at people basically just showing up there peacefully, expressing their opposition, because now the initial environmental, the EIR, is out, and there's a window of public comment, and we need to show opposition to that. And then on Wednesday, February 23rd, is the meeting at 9 a.m. with the Planning Commission, who actually will be helping, not helping, to make the final assessments about the environmental impact. That's at 9 a.m. at the Rood Center. And then January 27th at 6 p.m., there's a webinar. Like you said, go to MineWatch on Facebook. But we need to, if there's, excuse the pun, if there's ever been a watershed moment that we need to stand up and defend sacred water, to defend life, in particularly our region of Northern California, and again, Nevada County, Placer County, we have to change the cronyistic old practices of Nevada Irrigation District. We have to educate them about the science, like Bob was saying. We have to expose what's happening behind the closed doors. And we also have to stop the proposed Idaho Maryland mine. And as Bob Saunders, who's in Sacramento, knows, all of this goes downstream and affects the Sacramento River Delta, which is one of the largest water estuaries in the world. It affects the whole Pacific fish population. It affects the salmon migration, and it goes all the way up to the Klamath and to Mount Shasta. It affects the the Winnemem Wintu, all the Machupta Maidu, all the tribes, all the people and all the communities along the river. And we haven't even really dug into, which we will in the future. We have Angelica coming on from Mount Shasta, who's part of the Watershed Council up there in Mount Shasta. She'll be on in the next few weeks. We also have other people. Patrick Porgans is going to be coming on, and he's going to be talking a lot about the actual facts and science and the misappropriation of funds around the Delta Water Project. And a lot of this is going to be decided this year. So we can no longer afford to sit idly by. So with that, I'd like to open up the roundtable. I want to thank Diana Suarez for being on this call. And we would love to have you, maybe with a representative from the Nisinan, to come on for World Water Day on March 22nd, Diana, to make sure that the voice of Indigenous communities are heard and put at the forefront with their traditional ecological knowledge. So if you have a few more minutes, we'll stay on the line. If anyone has any questions for Diana or anything they want to share or drop in about their work. And I see that Elizabeth put a question into the chat. So why don't we go to Elizabeth Harold and we'll start some Q&A and some roundtabling.
Yeah, I brought up the link between the Mercury. When I got on, Bob was talking about the Mercury in our watersheds, the encapsulated Mercury in our watershed from the gold mining. And what's really not known is that the Mercury came from Clear Lake at that time. And this is currently a significant problem with the Pomo of Clear Lake, who are getting, or have been for years, mercury toxicity at an unprecedented rate. And I was just curious if Bob or Diane said no, she didn't have any. But we have a friend who's in Walnut Creek, Russell Anderson, that's very familiar with the mercury. And it seems like the mercury is part of Clear Lake is coming out of, is going into Cache Creek, into the Yolo Causeway, and into the Delta. And he says there's a direct correlation between the when it rains and the rain sort of opening up and off gassing the mercury as the water gets turbulent, and breast cancer. And I think this might be a important thing to sort of bring into an actual connection and learn more about it with regards to the fight with the Idaho Maryland mine, in terms of, really seeing clearly what mercury does and how it affects our lives.
I do know one thing, that the mercury that was used in the gold mines up here was mined down in the Bay Area. In that general vicinity, there was mercury mines, and they brought it up here and just used it with no abandon. I mean, there was a 2-mile long sluice on Steep Hollow Creek, and the mercury is still dripping out of it. That's 170 years later, we're still getting mercury poisoning from the old sluice box that was 2 miles long. The longer it is, the more gold they can get out of it. So it's a mess. Yeah, it's the placer mining legacy up here is terrible, and I'm not surprised that it's impacting clear down there. But there is natural occurring mercury that was mined down there and brought up here. That's the little piece I have.
So here's what I want to offer to you guys, in support of Michael and everybody up in Nevada City, fighting against them.
Bob, can you put your camera on, please, again?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's like I keep getting that my thing is fading. That's why I kind of take it off. So, there we go. Okay, good. It came back. Want to save juice here so I can stay on. So anyway, so what I offer is I'll write a press release for your protest rally. And Elizabeth, please, and Diana, I want to get statements from you in regards to exactly what you just said about the mercury. And then we can put together a fact sheet, because last time the media from Sacramento did go up there and I saw it on TV. So, and usually they won't cross a river, like they won't even go like to Yolo County, but we've always been successful. A lot of protests that we've done is to get them to follow us. And I always give them a fact sheet. because then when they report, it's beautiful, it's music, it's poetry and music to my ears when I hear that they're regurgitating the actual facts rather than some BS. And they go and they go ask some spinmeister who lies or says something and like tripping and stumbling over their words because they know that it's untrue. But with us is that they do that. And then they say, and someone once said, oh, we should look into that, more deeply. And someone else said, one of the reporters, and I'm going, whoa, that wasn't scripted, So anyway, so let's do that. Michael, you and I, you'll send me the exact dates and stuff like that. I'll start working on something and, work off a little bit of last time. And let's see what we can do to get it in the media, open this up. And let's basically tighten the noose around the board. Because recalling is really, really hard. But if we can out them, that this is what your board wants to do to you in your area, the next board that comes in, if these guys do go, are going to be super careful about it. And maybe we put enough pressure and it costs Idaho Maryland Mining Company so much money to try to fight back that they give up. That's essentially what we've always done with other ones. We want to drive their stock in the tank and cost them so much money, and then they don't even start. And it's easy to stop them before they start again than it is to try to shut them down once they have begun.
Exactly. And I just want to bring Elizabeth back into the call based on what you said, Bob, because even though Bob and I, and you can check out the website, Sacramento River Watershed Project.com, and it's just an alliance of people in our Sacramento River Basin who are trying to bring solutions. And again, it goes from Mount Shasta to the Delta. But one of the exciting things, and we're working with Elizabeth with that. And again, last year we founded this Voices of Water, World Water community channel for media and interactivity and a way to share information. And I want to make sure that we can get Diana and other people on the channel, Elizabeth. But Elizabeth is working on a very large global thing of a concept, if you could speak really briefly about, Elizabeth, the World Watershed Wisdom Councils, where she's connecting with people all over the world dealing with a lot of the same issues and actually starting to map out planetary watersheds and people that are doing specific projects in specific areas and helping to bring more water consciousness, flow, and connectivity between these global watershed communities. Could you please speak about that, Elizabeth?
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Essentially, the realization that the care of our watershed is up to the humans in the watershed on the benefit of the life of the watershed. And I'm intrigued by this, with the idea of water rights, because it's actually backwards. The life of the watershed belongs to the water of the watershed, not the other way around. And so with the concept that we are stewards of our earth and water, we need to flip the mirror in terms of our perspective of what our responsibilities are and who's in charge of that, and bringing it back, essentially rebooting human stewardship from the roots up, and beginning to find champions that recognize that water is source, not resource, and beginning to live that way and organize from ridge to reef along the tributaries into the main drainage basin and into the main river branch, and then out into the delta, into the ocean, that the voices are heard, represented, and cared for in a specific sort of organizational model of whole systems transformation. Bridging our inspiration. We all have a great deal of inspiration, but we don't really know what to do. So being able to create a social toolbox wherein people can say, oh, I can do this watershed's doing that, it's working for them that way, and really begin to gather the data of our wisdom within each one of our watersheds, because every watershed is unique. Just in our own Yuba, I'm in Penn Valley, and Squirrel Creek doesn't have the mercury problem, but we have fertilizer because we were the cattle fields for the gold mine. So it's a different issue, but it's the same watershed, and really being able to triage our watershed and know what the issues are, and then start finding the solutions and implementing them. And a lot of it is encouraging youth to get involved as stewards. And, my home watershed is a top priority. So I'm really excited to see all the work that Bob and Michael and Diane, you are doing for the Sacramento as the greater watershed and also our own rivers, because we are all connected. And if we start acting that way, then most of these issues that we have on the planet start taking care of themselves because we're aligned with life itself.
And with that note, I'd like to invite in, I know she's been patiently on the phone. She's quite a water protector, advocate, activist, water consciousness carrier. I want to invite into the conversation. I don't know if she can be on video, but I know Angelique is calling in all the way from Denver, Colorado, from her watershed. So if you could give us, what your watershed is and chime in and share a little bit about what your work up there in Northern Colorado is. So welcome, Angelique.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Michael. And nice to see everyone here. Bob, hello. It's been a while.
Yeah.
My river is the South Platte River that I visit very often. And right now we're just working, on the watershed. I'm supporting Elizabeth with the Watershed Wisdom Councils and trying to establish something here in the area in Boulder. We just gathered this last weekend with Michael and the Regenesis, promoting community and starting these conversations so that we can start collaborating. And like Elizabeth is saying, building a network of people, because everybody's doing something and everybody has a piece of the puzzle. So right now it's really about just bringing community. I'm really trying to focus on bringing community and getting everybody on the same page and seeing, creating like this big giant mind map of what everybody brings and really seeing how we can fit in the pieces and how we can support each other, because there's so many pieces that we all need that are there, but we don't have access to. And so figuring out what's there, what do we have at our disposal through our allies, in support of this and making water, my personal belief is focusing a lot of attention on making water a living entity, because then all these things go away. All of these other issues are secondary to, is water healthy? Then, okay, can you come? Then can you do this? Then can you do that? And we're not trying to, put all these patches on the boat. We just float the boat on the living waters and just say, no, she's first. She's alive. She's living. Let's recognize that. If for those in need of water filtration, I do have nanofiber water filtration available that is NASA certified. That's capable of being put in the home. It's a independent water bottle, or you can use a survivor pack for all of these situations that we're dealing with. In the meantime, there are solutions, and we should be implementing those for ourselves so that our waters are clean, because really all of this starts with our own waters. And the message that I carry is really developing that personal relationship with our own waters and how we move forward in these projects so that she's guiding us. It's not our ego. It's not us trying to figure things out with our mind. It's letting the waters lead us from our heart, and everything gets so much more efficient. And I think if we can all come in that space, then she's going to support us to unravel all this and take care of her, because she wants and longs to take care of us. And if we could just have that union within ourselves and move from there, then we can really start to have some deep effect together as allies, not only with our relatives, but with each other. Thank you.
Michael, can I add to that?
Oh, please. It's open discourse now. Thank you.
Thank you, Angelique. I always love hearing you share your message and your heart. I think part of that is our language, and building that relationship and allowing our language to reflect that. Just some simple things that we could all do. It's recognizing that, and we're 99 of the number of cells in our body are water molecules, or not cells, molecules. So really speaking to the fact that we are water, and that begins to shift our perspective. And if, in our language, we allow humans to be a proper noun with a capital at the beginning of their name, why don't we make a movement where water gets a capital letter always, right? And yeah, like God. My mom just added that, like God. and just begin to use a different language. We talk about the sun rising and the sunset, but no one on earth has ever once watched a sunrise and our sunset. The earth is turning, and we know that now. We feel it. We can sense that now that we have that perspective and have been able to see ourselves from the moon. We can see that we are on one planet, that we're one bubble within the universe, and we are one contained life. Science agrees that there's only one water on Earth. So if we're all water and there's only one water on Earth, then that means there's only one life on Earth. And just by changing our language and how we speak to it and speak to others about it, it spreads, because water is a medium of vibrational frequency of sound. So as we speak to it, or we sing to it, or we dance to it, we're transmitting the messages of water, as life. And it's a very potent thing. And when we begin living in this way, it changes everything. And as Angelique says, then water floats the boats, all the boats. And
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, love.
Well, and that's, as we talk to these people, as we bring this, our awareness to these groups that are unaware, to really inculcate into them that water is alive, to demonstrate, to show them scientifically that she is a conscious living being, and she feels and she's aware. And I think, like, if we could come and share that perspective of water, where people can realize the gift that she is and the nurturer that she is to us all personally, then it will matter more, because then it's not something outside of us, it's something inside of us. It is our connection to spirit, because when that word went out over the water, that was the blueprint of creation. And that's what I'm inviting us here today, is to utilize that blueprint of creation for all of our work, and to show these people that she is alive.
Well, how could she not be alive? If we're 99% water and we are alive, and everything alive on Earth is alive because it is water, then how could water itself not be alive?
We're getting into common sense right now.
Heaven forbid.
And this is where they need help the most.
Yeah, fake news and fake science can't change that reality. So I want to drop in just really quick. And again, I want to check in. I think we have about another 5 or 10 minutes left. I want to make sure Diana has enough time to just finish the call. And I do want to invite to finish the call. We usually like to do a little coherent meditation around water, because like Elizabeth and Angelique are so brilliantly expressing, is, water consciousness, water, it connects all of us, and creating these coherent fields. And whatever we're doing with the Friends of the Bear River, or water activism or advocacy or water ceremony, all of that plays a very important part to all the different aspects of really what this Voices of Water channel is about, our membership community. And even beyond that, beyond our channel and our small efforts, what's happening on many levels. I know there's the water law piece that's being acted. I mean, so many people right now. And of course, I always want to go back to the traditional ecological knowledge and the acknowledgement of the original indigenous water keepers, whether they're here from Native Americas or maybe from our Celtic ancestry, or Mediterranean cultures and African cultures and Asian cultures, that the sacred hoop sacred water connects us all in the four sacred directions and the sacred races and colors. So it's a very powerful unifying force, especially at a time where there seems to be so much divisiveness. So I just want to chime in with Diane if she has a few more minutes. And
Well, I'd like to react to this wonderful discussion that Angelique and Elizabeth were having, because it brought to mind a book that Masuro Emoto wrote, The Hidden Messages in Water, and water reacting to the humans. Whatever the humans did or said, water created different crystalline structures based on the emotions and what the humans were projecting, mirroring what the human reality was creating. And water being in love, we have a love relationship. We are in relationship to water, and we each have a one-on-one direct relationship to the water that is our body, the water that surrounds us, and the living water that makes up our world. Trees are standing water. If it wasn't for water, life would not be able to manifest itself. Each and every one of us has a personal responsibility, a personal relationship with water, and a responsibility, but a personal relationship with water based on love. And down at Bear River, the name of Bear River, it has many names. Kuminseo means river of the roundhouses. Tuminseo means river of prayers. The river was reacting to the prayers of the indigenous people and carrying the prayers down to the ocean, the all one of water. And it's so important for each of us to retain that relationship, that direct relationship with water. Every time I see the clouds in the sky, we have a song that we sing, water, we love you. Water, we thank you. Water, we honor you. We say this over and over so the water knows how we feel. I sing to water in ditches because it's all one water. That water is related to the water in Bear River, is related to the water in the Sacramento River, is related to the water in the ocean, is related to the water in my body and the tears that come from my eyes. It's all one interconnected source of life. And each of us must rejoice and love for the water because we are all one and it is one water. Like Elizabeth said, thank you so much for those beautiful words.
oh, wow.
Thank you, Diane. Beautiful.
And if I could add to that, Diane, this is Angelique. I agree with you. And I think that even beyond the songs, yes, the songs, but even just our daily troubles, our daily whatevers, our thankfulness, all of it, just because we can't get any closer to spirit than the water. It's the only thing spirit touched. So when we have
I think we might have lost a connection. Can you guys hear me?
Can hear you, Michael. Yes.
in our work.
I can hear
still
you.
there, Angelique?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'm sorry, continue. I think you dropped out for a moment. We probably have about another 4 or 5 minutes left, so thank you.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm having trouble hearing you. Basically, what I was saying is all this work that we're going through to ask her, instead of trying to figure it out, ask her from that place of love, because God is the quality of love. God is love, not the quality of love. So when we're being in that heart space and asking her to show us how to move forward in our projects, then we are embodying that godness that we are designed to be through our water.
Great. So we could go on. We could keep flowing with this conversation forever. And again, I want to remind for people who are watching this broadcast will be up on the voicesofwater.com World Water Community Membership Channel website and linked. We do ask a small donation of support to kind of keep all of this stuff going, but we're continuing to build. And World Water Day is coming up. And since this is the year of the water protector, that's on Tuesday, March 22nd. I know Elizabeth and I and Bob and others are planning an amazing day of broadcasting. I know a lot of us will be out here in the Crestone area, spending a day at Zapata Falls and some of the creeks that flow out of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains here in Colorado. I want to invite Diana Suarez to please come back for World Water Day for a shorter segment. And if there's a way to invite some of the voices of the Nisinan, whether through song or discourse and communicating with Shelley, that would be wonderful. I know we're also reaching out to other people around the world. I know Elizabeth and Angelique have been working with people in Guinea and Ghana and the Project Aisha. And there's so much, I mean, we could talk for hours. So this is just another drop of water in an endless, infinite flow of the oceanic potentiality of how we're all finding each other and starting to synergize and work together. And which ties in a lot into Elizabeth's vision of these World Watershed Wisdom Councils. I also want to thank Bob Saunders for being on the call from the Sacramento River Watershed Project. You can check out that website. And I want to mention to Bob, I did put in the chat and I also telegrammed you for the press release some of the water related events that are coming up in the Grass Valley, Nevada County area.
Saw that.
And,
Yep, thank you.
that we can put that into a press release about
Mhm.
stopping the mine
Mhm.
and also mentioning World Water Day. I mean, we have so much going. We need to
Absolutely.
breach the limited envelope of our pond of preaching to the choir and get people into the flow, into the really into the fight for our divine birthright of
Mhm.
access to clean water. And so again, these are all important issues. I want to also thank Diana Suarez, who is just incredible woman. I see her whenever I go to NID meetings, which isn't that frequent, but I go to show up and, you know, express my disbelief on the poisoning of our community and what's happening. She's always there. She's so committed. I just want to thank her for taking the time today, and Angelique, and I know Johanna had to get off the call. She's still recovering from her bout with Omicron over the last week or so. So we're sending her prayers and good health. And just to finish, I just want to again, any last thoughts, Diana? And then maybe what we could do is we can maybe Elizabeth or Angelique or someone wants to just kind of leave us with a moment of group coherence and water consciousness. And that'll wrap up our Voices of Water Wednesday broadcast for this week. And we have lots of great people coming up, Angelique, excuse me, and we have Patrick Pergans coming up about the what's happening in the Sacramento Delta. And we're about to blow the pants off the whole proposed Delta Tunnel project with 30 to 40 years of forensic information of where the money's going. And also Angelina Cook from the Mount Shasta Watershed Council is going to give us a report what's happening up there at the glacial headwaters. But any last words, Diana? And then we'll finish whoever wants to take the reins for our, and maybe you want to, Diana, for our closing meditation, song, or prayer around water consciousness.
I would like to remind everybody to participate in the NID Plan for Water, nidwater.com. And I think that's it.
I'll make sure that Bob has that in the press release he puts out, because we'd like to give people connections to these resources so they can, you know, take the responsibility for the follow through. And
Yep.
while we
I want to thank everyone for the wonderful words today. It was very wonderful for me to hear, and thank you for the opportunity as well.
Thank you.
One question for Bob, Michael. You talked about getting the Mercury facts. Can I just give Russell Anderson your contact information, Bob?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So Elizabeth, you want to do our closing coherent moment here with you and your mother? And
Yeah, I want to just give my mom some props. She's been a water guardian for all of my life, so let's come by it honestly. Just take a minute's breath and allow the boundaries of our sort of ego expectations, our sense of our self, and just let it dissolve a little bit. Feel yourself soften. Feel the boundary between your waters inside your body. Relax. And we take in all that's been said today and really feel into that, the energy and the love behind those impulses that come out as words. And as we breathe, we're breathing in this inspiration. And as we breathe out, we're breathing forth to the world the commitment to stand in unity, in water unity with the source of life, that essential life force that animates us all. Just allow ourselves to take some deep breaths and transform this impulse that you're feeling inside your body, this energy, into gratitude. And just thank the water for being present, allowing us this opportunity to come together and guiding us, teaching us, reminding us who we really are. And who we are for the future generations, because we know we're at a crux point in human evolution and there is an imperative. And we are responding, and we are listening, and we are coming together, because we can only do this together. In quantum love, we are you. Thank you. Enjoy your day. Keep coming back. Keep sharing your wisdom with us. I love you all. Thank you.
And looking forward to being back on same time, same water channel next week. And thank you, Bob and Elizabeth, for helping to midwife this platform and all the great speakers, and really looking forward to World's Water Day. And everyone have a great day as we activate our solutionaryism and drop into water consciousness.
Yeah. Have a
Thank-
great and productive day, everybody.
Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Diana.
Yep.
Thank you,
Yes,
Angela.
Thank you, everyone.
Diane.
Mini Wachoni.
Anyway,
Minnie
Minnie
Wachoni.
Wantanara.
There, I'm done. I think.